Hi, welcome back to the channel. My name's Adrian and today I'm delighted to bring my top 10 Mork Borg inspired games settings. Now this has been slightly delayed for a month or so because I was hoping to do this earlier in the year. However, there was a couple of games I was hoping to pick up at the UK Games Expo just to see if they ended up in the list. I'll let you know that as we go through, but how do I put these lists together? So what I basically do is take every Mork Borg inspired game that I've got in my collection, which came in at 23. I then put them into the PubMePool website. It then basically, I have to choose between two, and then it gives me a list, and that's it. I'm slightly surprised at some of these in here on how high or low some of them will be, but you know, it's the beauty of the website. It just makes those decisions a little bit easier for you. But before I get into it, there's one other thing that you may have noticed on the thumbnail, and that is Pirate Borg is not in my top 10 list. And the reason for that is because Pirate Borg is my number one. I talk about it a lot on the channel. I do a lot of reviews for it because it's my favorite Borg. Now, this is going to be my top 10 Mork Borg inspired games that doesn't include Pirate Borg. So yes, it's technically a top 11. I'm sure someone will put that down in the comments, but I kind of wanted to get to number one and it be something other than what, if you've watched this channel, that you fully expect to see in here. Now I've got a couple of honorable mentions that I'm going to put into the list as well, because these are things that I've played that I think probably when I redo this list next year are going to be high. I'm not sure whether they're going to make top 10, but I kind of want to just talk about them. But I don't own them. You know, I've played them, I've ran them on the channel, but I don't own them. So they can't, my rules, they can't actually sit within, you know, I'm not allowed to pick from them. So I think I've probably wasted enough time. My number 10 is something that is, well, I'd say this is one of the ones that really did surprise me. Now, I love the world, and I've always loved the world since this came out in the early 90s. But first edition rules were okay. Well, we didn't know any different. Second edition rules, I'm not a huge fan of. But that is Slay Borg, which is the Borg equivalent of Slay Industries. Now, this game, I say, it was originally out from the 90s. It's a horror kind of, it's kind of a sci-fi setting ish. You could get away with it, but you're basically playing people that live on a planet and you're just trying to survive. But the whole planet is run by Slay Industries, which is this corporation that's not only has taken over this planet, it's taken over planets in the solar systems, and you're basically an agent working for them, normally trying to work your way up to improve your credit rating to basically get access to better things, obviously with the ongoing goal, realistically, depending on the players, to take down the industry. However, this is not quite that. This is a little bit more tongue-in-cheek. You're someone that isn't quite the best of the operative, and you may or may not be working for Slay Industries because most of your missions are given to you from a cat. So it is a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but it's still got that grittiness, and you get to play in the wonderful world that is Slay Industries. But with this, you know, I'm going to say this about a lot of, you know, how fast and quick these rules are to play. And obviously, because it's a Mork Borg type setting, you can easily just convert this into solo play. But again, I don't really want that's a video for another day. But you know, this has got all your hooks and everything you're going to need to actually just get your missions. It's got a lot of mission creators in here, so you know, roll up a couple of characters, go throw them out, and it comes with these bus pass missions, so different colors for different types of missions that you want to create. So it's got all you're going to need as a games master. Obviously, you'd expect to basically create different missions to send the players out, and they're just going to hopefully try and survive, because as I said, they are not good in any way, as in, you know, effective people that are going to actually work for Slay Industries. It's a really nice and fun twist on quite a dark and serious game. Number 9, everyone needs a Western in their section, I think, and that is Frontier Scum. Now, this does sort of delve into Cthulhu-y based type thing, so it's not a pure Western. It's written by Carl Druid, and say it's a relatively small book. It does come with an adventure in here as well, but it's really designed and set out to be like, you know, a traditional Western newspaper. It's just so much fun, and it's got this wonderful mechanic actually, which I've seen in other Mork Borg settings, where your hat is your armor. So obviously, if you then take the huge amount of damage, you can just basically lose your hat and then you have that little bit of luck that goes on. But yeah, this is a really good Western setting. I say it's dark. It is going to contain everything you need, but you can still, do all the little shopping things and everything else that's in here. But it's going to be slightly more than just your traditional cowboys because of the things and the creatures the player's going to be encountering. Now, number 8 is a relatively new thing that's come to my collection. Now, I've always sworn I'm not a huge fan of Star Trek. I like Star Trek role-playing games, but the TV shows outside the original series was something that I've never really got into. But Starship Adventures, I picked this up a few months ago. I can't get Modiphius 2D20's Star Trek Adventures onto the table because my group aren't a huge fan of the 2D20 system. Now this, on the other hand, because it's Mork Borg, it's rules light, and it does come with 3 books, which, when you download them from Drive-Thru-RPG or you buy them from there, you've got Games Masters, Players, and then a world book. But again, these across the 3 is everything you're going to need to basically create a Star Trek themed adventures. But what's so good about this and the way it's done is all of the species feel like Star Trek. But what David has done in the way that he's written it is he's written this to be very episodic. So each session you have is its own confined one shot. It's got all the rules to how to create it in there as well. But you can then, it will show you how to sort of move that on to, like a proper TV series. Might be, well, in the old days it was like 24 episodes, but it has an ongoing theme or arc throughout that story. And so this is going to teach you how to do that as well. It's got everything that you need to do for shore leave and everything else. It's such an amazing setting, and you've got all the rank system in here. So if you want to be the captain of the starship, you can be, but you're probably not going to want to be. There's aging effects in here as well, so it is kind of just take you through proper Star Trek missions as well. Another one of those that surprised me when I picked it up, that it was actually something that really excited me and I look forward to playing. Now, my number 7 is, I knew I was going to love this when I picked it up. Again, this has been ran live on my other channel, and it is set during the 30 Years' War. It's a setting that is basically, you're sat in the middle of 2 terrible, let's say, religious sects that are just taking over the world. Now, both of the sects believe that they are doing the right thing. Here we go. So we got the Waterlander Empire here, and then the Puritans. It also does have that element of the English Civil War, but say this is definitely set during the 30 Years' War, and it's just a lot of fun. It's dark, miserable, grotesque world that it's just going to, everything in here is designed to make it difficult for the players to move on. But you can have that ongoing wonderful campaign setting. Now, quick caveat, I've only got the PDF copy of this. I know a variety of people have said there are some issues, I believe, with physical copies, but I say I've never really seen anything. You're going to go and join whichever faction you want. Again, artwork is amazing, and this staggering pox here, which is the plague creatures on here, it is just I had an absolute blast when this was run on the channel. Pick your faction, play against a faction, or actually, if you don't really want to, don't worry about it. Just play off each side and just see how long you can survive. So that is my number 7, which is Black Powder and Brimstone. Number 6 is, this was, I think, possibly the biggest shocker that I had on the whole of my top 10, which was Pulp Inc. Now, I'm a big fan of pulp magazines, comics, and the TV series from the sort of 30s and 40s, which is where this era is. And this just allows you to play as a pulp hero. Let me do so. Here you go. If you want to play an Indiana Jones type scholar, that is in here. If you want to be the masked hero, those people from those sort of TV shows, again, in the sort of 30s and 40s. The mercenaries in here, so if you want to go around fighting, punching Nazis, you can include that. We've got the mystics with lots and lots of magical powers. Weird science, if you want to have crazy concoctions and blowing stuff up. And then finally, very much inspired by Tarzan. It's just such an amazing, fun setting. I was absolutely shocked to this. This is one of my sort of go-tos now when people go, do you want to play a Mork Borg game? Yeah, do you like 1920s, 1930s sort of pulp stuff? Yeah. Give Pulp Inc. a go, because here we go. We've got a load of supernatural power. So it is slightly beyond standard, human world. But honestly, it was crazy. And I recently got to sit down and talked with David over this. And from what I've seen, because obviously this is 1930s, there seems to be, set in this world, I think there's going to be a Cthulhu kind of setting come in as well. This one is weird though, because this is actually completely self-contained. I think it was 64 pages and everything you need. Lots of creatures, lots of monsters, standard normal creatures. Then you're going to get into humans and cultists and femme fatales and stuff. It's just absolutely fun. Leaving my number 6 at Pulp Inc. Number 5 is a game that I've attempted to review several times. It is You've Just Died, and you are now stuck in this other world, and it's a world that is, I'd say this book comes in at 340 pages. It's a tough read for me because of all the fonts and everything done. And a 340 page book with tough fonts and small writing means probably my review would be about an hour and a half. So I've kind of don't think I'm ever going to get this reviewed, but it's a Mork Borg setting. Say, you've died, you're going to come back as a wraithborn, and you've got different types of, let's see if I can see, like different types of things. So we've got ironclad, which are these like metal people stuck in armor. We've got different types of vampires here, wildkins in here, Waven riders. When I sat down and interviewed Hamilton about this, this book was meant to come in about 200 pages, and it's 340. It's just ridiculous. And you can see here there's 100 odd pages of creatures and monsters in here, from the corrupted all the way to the vampiric horde. And slight spoiler, you can't ever get out of here. Once you are in here, you are trapped and stuck here forever. So you do get that wonderful, I say wonderful, Mork Borg essence of just waiting to slowly die, all the while trying to go, level up. But you've got 5 different locations here, which, as you can see what I mean about the fonts that he used, that Hamilton uses. A lot of this artwork is his own artwork as well, which I think is absolutely brilliant. But it's got, I think I should say, it's one of the most interesting and fun magical systems in here that I've actually seen, which uses like manipulating dice and things in here. It's such an amazing game, but again, it's that horrible dark theme of just trying to survive, because you do get that, oh, we could get out, can we get out, can we get back to our bodies? But from what Hamilton tells me, and I haven't played it long enough to get beyond the different worlds, but yeah, you're not getting. And here we go. Here's the magic system that just uses the sort of like different types of magic, and you can put things together to create your own spells and stuff. It's very in depth, the way that the spell system works. It's the thing, I think, when I was talking to him, I'm sure he said it was one of the bits that he's the most proud of. But yeah, that's why my number 5 is Wraithborn. Number 4 is something that said I was waiting to go to the UK Games Expo. I was hoping to pick this up because I've been after a Japanese inspired game setting for a while. I was a huge fan of Legend of the Five Rings. Everyone's now screaming a couple of different Mork Borg games, and I'll tell you which one it is, and that is Ronin. This is a self-contained world where the players are on an island, and it's just utterly brilliant. You've got this, obviously, you've still got the destruction here, which is the Black Calendar, but 10 different character classes to play. But there's this wonderful mechanic which I'm gonna have to. It's element of like seppuku's in here, which talks about there are a couple of warnings in here about suicide and stuff. But obviously the world is sort of taken over. It's a dark and corrupted world. The shogun is kind of not doing his role as well as he should do, but we've got different types of ninjas and clans in here, and the monks that don't speak that you can go and get your training from. Here's your apocalyptic events. But each of the character classes have, like I say, there's 10 different ones in here, but there's a bit I kind of want to just see if I can get to it, where when you die, you basically go and fight a god. I think they're called an Oni in there, aren't they? And if you manage to kill it, you get to come back and fight again. So if you die in the middle of a combat, as the rest of the combat is going on, you're then fighting against the other creature, hopefully, so you can pop back up and start again. But also, if you do, so there's an element of, obviously you need to keep your honor, but here we go. So if your honor is starting to fail, you can just commit suicide to get some of your honor back, which then is going to make your next character a little bit more powerful when you start again. Really interesting that it allows it to carry on. And then you've got this parrying, So I think a lot more board games, we're used to all the player-facing rules where you get to dodge, but parrying is interesting. So it's slightly harder, but when you do it, you can basically obviously parry. It's slightly harder, but it does mean if you get that crit, you can also instantly hit them back. So yeah, really, really interesting the way it works. And as I said, this is everything. People told me to pick up Ronin. This is everything I really wanted from a Japanese inspired Mork Borg setting. So my number 4, Ronin. Number 3, one of the first solo games I ever picked up was a D20 rollover. It's a post-apocalyptic world with all this feudal sort of settings, because basically what happened is humanity, so it's based, very much feels like it's based on Earth, but humanity basically, as we do, we sort of got all these robots and AI to take over, and then AI basically destroys the world. Maybe, this might be our future, who knows? But what you then play is you as the players, you are this reclaimer. You are a adventurer. It's very much, I kind of, whenever I'm playing this, I'm kind of feeling like Rey out of Star Wars. Now, if you don't like the new films, that's not the debate for this, but where she is basically on that planet, going out, finding different ancient texts, which is actually more modern than the world you're in, but you don't know how it works. So you're then going to, because obviously you're this reclaimer, you're going to go out and then sell that because you're working for these different barons and lords out there. Or you could be, do you keep it? Do you negotiate to try and, or do you sit and actually try and work out exactly how it works? But yeah, I loved the setting, and I quite liked the original system. Didn't know any different, and then I found out that this is going to be ran and created into a Mork Borg system. So I'd say a wonderful setting and a wonderful system. But yeah, this has got all the rules to be able to play it solo and do with that. But obviously, if you then want to sort of have parties and people to go out together, I don't know. There's just so much fun to be had in here because it's got that aspect of it feels. I think people talk regularly about Dungeons and Dragons being a post-apocalyptic world and setting. I've just realised that this is the placeholder version that I'm showing, not the version with the full art in. So this is the version that I had when the Kickstarter was running. I've loaded up the wrong one. Yeah, it's everything you're going to need, and then we've got there's also 2 other books in here, and then other books that have come recently from the Kickstarter. But always good to have the option of whether you want to run with a games master or without, so say, because it's perfectly solo. Well, I think that is the good thing about a lot of Mork Borg style games, isn't it? It is very, very soloable. Okay, my number 2, and this is scary how high this is coming. This is something I deliberately went out my way to go and find at the UK Games Expo, and that is Berserker, which is a Nordic inspired setting. Now, it's not just a standard sort of Viking setting. The very first thing you need to do right at the start is decide whether you want to go down the road of Odin or Loki in here, okay? But this game, you are wandering around and doing things to gain favor, especially, obviously the idea of the game is to die at some stage because of Ragnarok, which is why it fits perfectly in. But you've got the 9 realms to go around, and this is probably heading towards being one of the most attractive and stunning books that I've got. This looks so much better not on PDF. But you're going to get all the 9 realms, and each of the realms are going to be separated like this. You're going to have the weather, some local rumors, some random discoveries, some random encounters, 4 different creatures, like standard creatures for each of the realms, and then 2 sort of bigger, sort of more powerful bosses in here. But it's just, again, this is another one of those that you're trying to survive because Ragnarok is coming, and you want to have all the glory and all the honor to be able to basically, once you get to Ragnarok, I've done enough glorious things to get to Valhalla. Now, one thing to bear in mind, when you do get the opportunity to get to Valhalla, if you haven't done enough honorable things and you haven't acted in the way of like the Norse mythology, you're not getting there. You are just going to die and lose your character. You need to just go out and act and die honorably. You also need to die in battle. You can't just die of old age or falling off a cliff, whatever it may be. You need to be killing something bigger, better, stronger than you. So, we're just showing here the art and the different creatures from all the different realms at this moment in time. But also, this game's a little bit more deadly because it does give you quite a few more hit points and stat abilities, because it wants you to have, it's not heroic in that sort of 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons aspect, but it does want you to sort of feel like you could, if you wanted to, take on a god, because it's got the stats in here for the gods. It's got stats in here for godlike weapons as well. So you're going to go out, you're just going to be fighting, trying to do what you can to create the best saga you can. So when you're there and it's your final time, actually, game mechanically wise, I'd probably just say that you've got 3 minutes to convince the games master as to why you should go there. Here we go, is the section on it as well. And obviously we've got the Blood Eagle here, which is a great piece of art. And depending on, again, whether you're going down the Loki route or the Odin route, will just determine how things go. And obviously you've got runes in here and all the magic and everything else that you're going to need. So yeah, I was sort of kind of blown away just how high up the list that actually came. I absolutely love Norse mythology, and I knew if this book was done well, that this would just fly as high as it's gone. And yeah, it really is big. Now I've just come back to me because I want to just have a couple of honorable mentions. So there was things that I thought probably will be in my top 10 next year. I'm not sure what's going to disappear, what's going to go up or down, but because these aren't effectively out yet, so there's just a couple in here. So first one is Ragnarborg, which is, again, it's a Norse mythology setting, but this is more, you are playing more humans, if that makes sense, in that setting. And it should be out, I think, probably about a month from now. It's very close. You know, I got to play it. I've had a sort of snippets of some of the rules, and it's going to be very much compatible with Pirate Borg. It's still going to use the ash mechanic in there, so that is really good. And then finally, the second one I just want to talk about is Vast Grim, which is a horror sci-fi setting that Brian ran on my channel. And this initially was in my list, and then I suddenly realized I don't actually own this. I don't have a copy. There is the Skeleton Crew out currently that you can get on PDF, but I've backed the whole of the Kickstarter, so I'm waiting for that to arrive at some stage. But yeah, both of those I envision getting into my top 10 next year, just on play alone, and the bit of research that I've done in. So right, yeah, let's just get back then to the PDFs and look at my number one. My number one is a 3-parter, which is quite funny because it's based on 3 movies, and you're going to need both, at least 2 of the parts. You don't necessarily need the solo rules, but I would still grab them. But my number one is Starborg. Now, Starborg, I didn't even know existed until about, I think it's about 6 months ago, and I was like, why has no one told me? And this is something that I sit and play at least once or twice a month. And I have, because there's also, it's this incredibly well supported, not only by JP Cuvert himself, but David Oakham, who did Pulp Inc. and Starship Adventures, has written several books. Again, I've reviewed those on the channel as well, that actually expand these and change some of the rules. Oh, you can pay a Magi Knight, not a Jedi, obviously. They are in here. But everything on this, I honestly can't quite work out how Disney have allowed this to come through, because it is so on point for being Star Wars without being Star Wars, that it's I don't know. I honestly do not know how this goes through. But yeah, so between JP and David, that's then expanded this even further. So there's so much for this. There's an awful lot of support out there. It feels like Star Wars. I remember on my video someone asked me, they went, is it balanced? I'm like, no, it's not balanced. There's all these different Sith Lords as well that the players can have. That obviously they're not called Sith. They will be hunting down the players. But yeah, I was always like, why has no one done a Star Borg before? And people went, they have. And then I read it, and then I played it. And this comes with all the actually, you're going to want the solo rules, because the solo rules is just another games master's tool in there. So yeah, that's it. That is my top 10 Mork Borg inspired settings. Let me know down in the comments below if there's anything that you think that you would put in. I'm always more interested in other people's top 10s as well, especially their number ones. You know, what will it be? So that's it. I think I'll leave it there. Let me know down in the comments below your favorite Mork Borg settings. You know, if I missed out what your favorite, just let me know. And if you're old enough to remember Slay Industries, the first edition that fell apart, just put a thumbs up in the comments, and I'll be back with the next video sometime soon. Thank you for watching. Thanks for the support. Please obviously like, share, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.